Think your F150 can only make it to 200,000 miles? You're wrong. There is a reason why some F150s are still running strong at 500,000 miles, while others are falling apart at 150,000. It's not luck, and it's not just buying the right year or engine. It's about knowing the maintenance secrets that Ford mechanics use to keep these trucks on the road forever. In this video, I'll show you the exact steps that separate a legendary truck from one that ends up in the scrapyard. No dealer BS, no expensive, unnecessary services, just real knowledge from someone who's kept F150s alive for decades. So stick around because these secrets will save you thousands and help you get 500,000 miles out of your truck. Let's get started. Secret number 1, change your oil every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. All right, let me be straight with you. I've worked on F150s for over 15 years, and if there's one thing that kills more engines than anything else, it's following the oil life monitor blindly. You've probably been told you can go 7,500 miles or even 10,000 miles between oil changes. That might work for a sedan that never sees a highway, but not for how you actually use your truck. Here's the truth. If you tow, haul loads, drive in dusty conditions, idle your truck, or make short trips in cold weather, you're in what Ford calls severe service. And that means oil changes every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. The oil life monitor doesn't know you just towed 8,000 pounds up a mountain. It's just guessing based on basic sensors. I've torn down engines that followed the normal schedule, and the sludge buildup is insane. Oil passages get clogged, timing chains wear out faster, and can fozers start rattling. That rattling noise on startup, that's worn cam fozers from old oil. The fix costs $2,500 to $4,000. Use quality synthetic oil, Motorcraft, Mobil 1, or Pennzoil Platinum. For most F150s with the 5.0 LV8, use 5W20 or 5W30. For EcoBoosts, stick with 5W30. And don't cheap out on the oil filter. Use Motorcraft or quality brand like Wix. A bad filter lets debris circulate through your engine. I've seen engines with 300,000 miles that look brand new inside because the owner changed oil every 3,000 miles. That's the longevity you want. Oil changes cost $50 to $70 if you do it yourself. Compare that to an $8,000 engine replacement. Don't skip it. Secret number 2, flush your cooling system every 50,000 miles. Let's talk about something most F150 owners ignore until it's too late: your cooling system. Ford says you can go 100,000 miles or longer on factory coolant. That's technically true, but it's not the whole story. Coolant doesn't just prevent overheating, it protects against corrosion. Over time, coolant breaks down and becomes acidic. When that happens, it eats away at your water pump seals, radiator, heater core, and internal engine passages. I've seen water pumps fail at 70,000 miles because the coolant was acidic. I've seen radiators corrode from the inside. And when coolant leaks into your cylinders, you're looking at head gasket failure. Here's what I recommend. Flush and replace your coolant every 50,000 miles. Not just top it off, a complete drain and fill with fresh Motorcraft orange coolant. This prevents corrosion and extends the life of every cooling system component. While you're at it, inspect your hoses. Upper and lower radiator hoses, heater hoses, all of them. Feel for soft spots or cracks. A $20 hose replacement can save you from being stranded with an overheated engine. I've worked on trucks with 400,000 miles that still had the original radiator and water pump because the owner changed coolant on schedule. Don't wait until you see steam. By then, the damage is done. Secret number 3, change transmission fluid every 60,000 miles. Now let's talk about the biggest lie in the industry: lifetime transmission fluid. Ford claims some transmissions never need fluid changes. That's garbage, and here's why. Transmission fluid breaks down. It gets contaminated with metal particles from clutches and gears. It loses its ability to lubricate and cool. When that happens, shifts get rough and the transmission fails. I've seen transmissions die at 120,000 miles because fluid was never changed. A rebuild costs $3,500 to $5,000. A fluid change costs $150 to $250. Change your transmission fluid every 60,000 miles. Not a flush, just a drain and fill. This removes about half the old fluid and replaces it with fresh. Use Motorcraft Mercon ULV or Mercon LV, depending on your model year. Don't use generic fluid. If you have the 10-speed transmission from 2017 or newer, this is critical. That transmission generates heat and has a lot of moving parts. Fresh fluid keeps it happy. I've seen 10 speeds with 250,000 miles that shift like new because of regular fluid changes. If you tow regularly, drop that interval to 50,000 miles. Towing generates more heat and breaks down fluid faster. Secret number 4, replace spark plugs at 100,000 miles. Here's something F-150 owners get wrong. Spark plugs. Ford says plugs are good for 100,000 to 150,000 miles. But by 150,000 miles, those plugs are worn, misfiring, and causing damage. Old spark plugs make your engine work harder. They cause incomplete combustion, which damages catalytic converters. Those cost $1,500 to $2,500 to replace. Old plugs also lower fuel economy and rob power. Worst of all, old plugs can seize in the cylinder head, especially on aluminum heads like the 5.0 LV8 and EcoBoosts. I've had to drill out seized plugs that snapped off because they hadn't been removed in 200,000 miles. That's a nightmare repair that can cost over $1,000 if threads get damaged. Replace spark plugs at 100,000 miles. Use OEM Motorcraft plugs, not cheap aftermarket stuff. For the 5.0 LV8, that's usually Motorcraft SP-546 or SP-548. For EcoBoosts, check your owner's manual. Here's a pro tip. When you remove old plugs at 100,000 miles, put a tiny bit of anti-seize on the new plug threads. This prevents seizing next time. Just don't overdo it. Spark plugs cost $60 to $120 for a full set. Installation is straightforward, or pay a shop $200 to $300. Way cheaper than catalytic converters or drilling out broken plugs. Secret number 5. Service your differential every 30,000 miles. If you've got 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, you have a rear differential and transfer case. Even rear-wheel drive trucks have a differential. These work hard, especially if you tow or off-road. They need maintenance. Ford says you can go 150,000 miles on factory fluid. I've seen differentials at 100,000 miles where the gear oil looks like tar. Thick, dark, full of metal particles. That fluid isn't protecting anything. Change differential and transfer case fluid every 30,000 miles for the first service, then every 50,000 to 60,000 miles after. This keeps gears lubricated and prevents overheating. A differential rebuild costs $1,500 to $2,500. A fluid change costs $50 to $100 yourself or $150 at a shop. Use the correct fluid. For most F-150 rear differentials, that's 75W140 synthetic gear oil. For transfer cases, use Motorcraft transfer case fluid. If you have limited slip, add friction modifier. I've worked on F-150s with 450,000 miles with original differentials because the owner changed fluids regularly. Don't ignore these components. Secret number 6. Install a catch can on EcoBoost engines. If you have an EcoBoost F-150, listen up. EcoBoost engines are great for power and economy, but they have a problem: carbon buildup on intake valves. This happens because of direct injection and the PCV system that recirculates oil vapor into the intake. Over time, oil vapor cooks onto intake valves and forms hard carbon deposits. This reduces airflow, causes misfires, rough idle, and loss of power. The only fix is removing the intake manifold and cleaning valves with walnut blasting. That's $500 to $800 at a shop. Install an oil catch can. This device catches oil vapor before it reaches your engine. You empty it every few thousand miles, and your valves stay clean. I've seen EcoBoosts with 200,000 miles with minimal carbon buildup because of a catch can. Quality catch cans cost $100 to $300. Brands like Mishimoto, Hold PR, and JLT make good ones. Installation is simple, usually just hoses and brackets. It's a small investment that saves big money. Also, change your air filter every 15,000 to 20,000 miles. A dirty filter makes turbos work harder and causes premature wear. Air filters are cheap. Turbo replacements are $1,500 to $3,000 each. Secret number 7. Never ignore small leaks. Here's something I see constantly. A customer brings in their F150 with a small oil or coolant leak and says, "It's just a few drops. I'll deal with it later." 6 months later, they're back with a major problem because that small leak became big. Small leaks are warning signs. They tell you a seal, gasket, or hose is failing. Catch it early. The fix is cheap and easy. Ignore it, you get bigger problems. An oil leak from a valve cover gasket costs $200 to $400 to fix. But if you let it go and oil drips onto your exhaust, or you run low on oil and damage your engine, you're looking at thousands. Check under your truck regularly. Look for drips or wet spots. Check your oil and coolant levels every few weeks. If you see a leak, get it diagnosed and fixed. Don't wait. I've seen trucks with 500,000 miles that never had major failures because the owner caught and fixed every small issue before it became serious. Keep spare quarts of oil and coolant in your truck. If you develop a small leak between maintenance, you can top it off until you can fix it properly. So there you have it, the 7 mechanic secrets that'll take your F150 from a 200,000 mile truck to a 500,000 mile legend. Change oil every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. Flush cool it every 50,000 miles. Change transmission fluid every 60,000 miles. Replace spark plugs at 100,000 miles. Service your differential every 30,000 to 50,000 miles. Install a catch can on EcoBoosts, and never ignore small leaks. These aren't expensive tricks. Most you can do yourself with basic tools. Even if you pay a shop, you're talking hundreds in maintenance versus tens of thousands in repairs. Your F150 is built to last. Ford makes tough trucks, but even the toughest truck needs proper care. Follow these secrets, stay consistent, and you'll be driving that truck long after others have traded theirs in 3 times.